हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू अनदर वीडियो ऑफ स्पार्क। आज के वीडियो में हम बात करने वाले हैं स्पार्क टेबल, स्पार्क डाटाबेस, स्पार्क सीक्वल के बारे में। वी आर नॉट गोइंग मच डिटेल इनटू स्पार्क सीक्वल, बट वी आर गोइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आर डिफरेंट tables available, what are the use of and purpose of that tables in the Spark, and what are the different ways, or what are the ways we can create a database, we can create a table inside the Spark while we are doing any program or writing any program. आप अगर मेरे चैनल में नए हैं तो प्लीज़ चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें, और वीडियो पसंद आए तो वीडियो को लाइक करें, और उन लोगों तक अपनी इस वीडियो को जरूर शेयर करें जो डाटा इंजीनियरिंग में नए हैं या डाटा इंजीनियरिंग में करियर पाथ वो मूव करना चाहते हैं। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं। तो सबसे पहले हम लोग समझते हैं कि स्पार्क सिर्फ ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन इंजन नहीं है, स्पार्क अपने में एक डाटाबेस भी है। इट कैन स्टोर द डाटा, दैट मीन्स इट कैन क्रिएट्स इट्स ओन डाटाबेस एंड इट कैन हैव मल्टीपल टेबल्स इनटू दैट। अब जब भी स्पार्क में आप टेबल क्रिएट करते हैं तो इट हैव टू पार्ट। वन इज द डाटा इटसेल्फ इन द टेबल, and the second is the metadata of the table. So there is a catalog part in the or catalog meta store in the Spark engine, and there is another thing called the exact data. So exact data, the data part of the table reside in one of the storage. If you're using S3, it will be S3. If you're using any distributed, for example, HDFS file system, so that will be in the file system. In the file ways, like how we have seen how the CSV is stored, how is the Parquet or Avro file is stored. The other part is the metadata, which is very important. It is stored into catalog meta stores, and Spark uses the Hive meta store. It uses the same meta store which Hive generally uses. And in the meta store, the location to the actual data will be there. In the meta store, the other structure of the tables will be there in the catalog meta store. So we can access that catalog meta store through our programs, and we can also create the tables with our program. So whatever thing which you have the variable, the RDD, the data frame in your program, and that is the in memory, like that is only available till the time the program is there. That is not persistent. So to persist your data in the Spark itself, it can be done with the table. You can also write the file. I'll tell you like why I'm telling you to create a table rather than writing the file outside, because there are few use case in which table criteria will fitting more. Okay. So now before going into that, like how in the program we create a database, and why we create a table in the Spark. Before that, we need to understand that how many types of tables are there. So there are two types of table in the Spark. The first is managed table, and the second is what you call external table or unmanaged table. So managed table is the table in which the meta store is kept with the data itself. Means the location of the meta store or the location of the catalog meta store is into the warehouse directory, which is set by the admin. Admin will set the warehouse directory of the Spark, and in that location the meta store will be there, and table data will be also there in one of the distributed file system. So manage table, if you are going to delete, if you do drop manage table, in that case your table data plus table structure, the metadata of that table is also being deleted. Okay, so the other thing is external table. In the external table, the files, the actual data is there in the distributed file system, and the meta store is in some of the location. You can give the location. So when you create an external table, there is a location check or location switch where you have to give the exact location where your meta store will be there and the table and data files will be there. So this way, there are two ways. So why we create an external table? So external table is generally used to reuse the data, because when you drop an external table, your data actually doesn't get dropped. Your only metadata gets dropped. Means the structure of the table gets dropped, but the data which resides in any of the distributed file system in a file format, that will be there. So external table is used as a temporary purpose. You can create multiple structure on the same table and reuse in a different programs. And whereas managed table is used or is created when you want to persist the data for longer period of time. Okay, this is the basic difference in this two table. Now we'll see that how can we access the database of this Spark, and how we can create a table into the Spark. For that we will use the Spark SQL. We have to enable Hive into our Spark, because Spark uses the Hive meta store or Hive catalog metadata. So we have one sample program, Spark SQL demo, which I have created. So here we are reading the file, the same thing which you have seen in the previous video. So we are reading the file, Okay, so it's a CSV file, the same people 100 records. So it's a sample file which I have downloaded from the Google. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to access the SQL. So before that, we need to enable this Hive. So we have to write dot enable Hive support when you are creating the Spark session. So this will enable the Hive support. And without this, you cannot access the catalog. Catalog means meta store or meta Hive. So in here, we will do Spark SQL. So I'm going to create a database. So first I'm going to write the command create database if doesn't exist demo session. Okay. So now my demo session database will be created, and then spark.catalog. I'm setting the current database as demo session. Okay. I'm just reading the CSV, and like this here, I'm reading the CSV. I'm doing the Spark SQL creating the database. In the catalog, I'm setting the set current database. In the similar way, if you want to see all the list of tables in this database, you can write spark dot catalog dot list. See list tables, list column, list database. So everything you can see. Fine. So you can call that method and you can see that. So we don't need it now. Okay, so now I'm going to write this data frame. I'm not going to do any transformation. I'm writing it. The mode is overwrite, means it will rewrite the previous thing also if it is there. Save as table. So this is important. We have to write save as table. I'm writing demo table. If you're not setting the current database as demo session here, so you can directly write it here. Okay, so this will assume it as a database, and this is the table. Okay, so I have already set up this, and this is actually we do the say this way in our the production environment or in our any of the project. Okay, so let's see what happens if I run this one. Okay, so I'll reload this because I already have that folder created. So you will see that so you'll see the output. So in the Spark warehouse, okay, so this is already been created. Okay, so what I will do for better example, what I will do, I'll just write another name of the database like SQL demo. Okay, so I'm going to use this SQL demo. Okay, right, just save it. I'll run it again. So now this will create a new database. That database already existed, so it will be good like if I create a new database in this session itself. So you will see Spark warehouse. So what is the Spark warehouse? Spark warehouse is the starting point. Okay, for the DB, and here itself the managed table also gets created. So Spark warehouse is the root directory or root database, you can say. Inside that you will have two database, which was the demo session was the another previous one, which I had created earlier. So SQL demo.db is created, which we have created now. Inside that you will see this part is there. So your actual the file is created as a part, and this is as a table. So when you have created this as a table, so this DB, so what is the advantage of this? So for example, there is another tool called Tableau, or some of the Informatica also supports, or some of the Snowflake. No, I'm not sure Snowflake will support it, but Tableau is support. So Tableau will have, they will have their own JDBC, and as DBT also supports. So with the JDBC and ODBC connector, in one of the connector, they can directly connect to this database, Spark database, and can read this file. Now the question is, we can also save the output normal file format like Parquet or XML, CSV, Avro file format, and that can be also reused by Tableau or Informatica or DBT. Yes, that can be done, but in that way you cannot directly read the file. We have to ingest the file somewhere, and then again, which with the help of the program, we need to make the tool understand that this file you have to read it. Okay, you have to write a pipeline, a short pipeline for that. But in this case, you have a ODBC, JDBC connector, which will directly connect to this database. So this is much easier, much convenient to reuse the data. So like this, for example, this SQL demo DB data, there are multiple downstream tools, database tool or the ETL tool which want to use this data, any reporting tool which want to use this database. So with we can configure the ODBC JDBC connector and can directly hit that database. So this is the advantage of the tables when we create a table in the Spark. So there can be a question like why we create a table in Spark. So this is one of the bigger advantage. Sometimes people also create when you have multiple transformation and your Spark job is taking too much of time. So in that case, you can persist some of the data. There are different ways, not just in the save as table. You can persist the data also, but this can be also a way like you can create a intermediate table. You can store the data. You can again read the data after few transformation. That also people do sometime. But the main advantage is what I have told you, connecting to the downstream application tools, because it can use the JDBC or DBC connector. So this was all about the Spark database. And one thing more, like if you don't mention any of the database, then the table will, if you don't mention any of the database, then the table will created in the default database of the Spark. And the default database of the Spark is the name default. Like what is the name of the default database of the Spark? The name is default. Okay. So this was all about this Spark database and tables. Okay, in the next session, I'll discuss more about the Spark SQL in much more detail, and in which scenario we should use the Spark SQL and where it will be useful. If you have any doubt in this topic, please post your comment or write a mail to me. You can get my email address from the channel description. तब तक के लिए अपना ख्याल रखिए. Take care and happy learning.